Pipeline accuracy doesn't fall apart because people aren't meeting enough or often enough with their customers. It falls apart because the CRM isn't capturing what's actually happening inside of your prospects, your deals, and your customers. When activity lies inside of inboxes and in people's minds, when fields go stale, and when the data is incomplete, every forecast conversation becomes a debate about subjective opinion instead of a decision based on data. What teams want is a pipeline they can trust without adding more checkpoints, more manual updates, and more pressure on reps. So in this video, I'm going to break down how accuracy actually improves by fixing the unreliable data issues in Salesforce and automating the updates that teams have currently doing by hand. Hi, my name is Jonathan Carford, also known as Coach K. I'm the VP of GTM Strategy and Marketing at Momentum.io. I was a customer of theirs 2.5 years ago and loved it so much that I literally begged the team to let me be a part of this, and here I am leading the GTM Strategy and Marketing and been having a blast. I also am the owner of GTM AI Academy, where I have reviewed 600 plus different technologies. I help teach people all the time about how to use AI for strategy and also for education, and want to make sure I can do what I can to help you in this world of crazy AI and go-to-market revenue craziness. So let's get into it. All right, so there's 5 things I want to talk about. Number 1 is why pipeline becomes unreliable based on, again, this my opinion of being in the RevOps and Enable world for 15 years. Why more meetings doesn't fix it, both meetings with customers and then meetings internally. Why automation and orchestration changes pipeline like immediately. The value of real-time nudges and guardrails, and why process enforcement without having to slow down reps. So let's start at the top. Why pipeline becomes unreliable. As you well know, inside of Salesforce, you've been in RevOps for any amount of time. You know that there's always this battle going on between the data police, aka RevOps managers and leaders, and the sales reps, trying to get them to adhere to their process of filling out 40 to 50 fields in Salesforce, half of them at least required, and trying to get them to put more information than just ... or NA in their thing, or picking the first choice in the pick list. As we all know, it's a fight that's been going on forever, and I have yet to see a sales rep who has beaten their quota get fired for not having good data in the CRM. It's not the case. So it's just an ongoing battle that never gets fixed. Now, the challenge is that there's a lot of data that's either missing, it's incomplete, it's outdated, or it's inside of the brain of the human, and the only way to get it is to have a conversation with them, and then you're just getting subjective data. So your other option is you have to go watch all of the calls, read all the emails, which no one has time for. So the other part of it too is that when you're relying on subjective opinion, sales reps are amazing and they have so much going on, but let's just think about it from their side. They're either have rosy colored glasses about deals, or they're literally going from back-to-back meetings, one after another after another. How can we expect them to remember every single detail from every single call when that's all they do all day long, every day, and then have to write notes, take CRM fields? Like, sales reps are burdened like crazy in the revenue world, and it's nuts that we expect them to remember every single detail 3 or 4 days later when we have a team meeting about 40 of their deals they just went through. It's very difficult to go through that. So the other thing too is that there's leaders who don't trust the data, and I can't tell you how many times at Momentum we have CROs and VP of sales and VP of RevOps who say, we love our reps, but we can't trust their opinion. We have no idea what's going on because they swear till they're blue in the face that this deal is going to come through by end of quarter, and then it pushes and then it dies a quarter later, and they don't know what's going on. And so the subjective opinion is not enough to make a forecast on what the heck's going on and actually have something that investors and people in the business can count on. So Salesforce becomes incredibly valuable and an important piece of your AI strategy when the data is complete and accurate inside of all your fields, which again, Momentum can do this because it has the most depth in a Salesforce integration and put in more data than any other technology out there. So we can automate 99% of field types, which most other techs can't, and we can help with pretty much all, which we'll get into in another video. All right, so now the other one is number 2 is why meetings don't fix it. So meetings to me are a symptom of the problem. They're not the problem. So when I say meetings, I mean 2 different types of meeting. 1 is more meetings with the customers, and 2 is meetings with each other, with internal teams. So when you have more meetings, that just means there's more data for you as a leader to have to consume and keep track of. So obviously that's not going to help. And there's a lot of times where if rep is overwhelmed, then having more meetings is not going to help them either because they're getting all this more information they can't keep track of it. I'm not saying you should meet with your customers and prospects more often. I'm just saying that if you think that them having more meetings is the answer, it's not always the answer. Secondly, and most importantly, is the meetings internally. If you think about it, the core part of the problem, thinking from first principles, is that we are depending depending on humans to be the source of data and also be the source of communicating that data to everybody else in the company. So if marketing wants to know how the messaging and positioning and where things are coming from, they have to ask the sales rep, hey, you have to have a meeting or Slack them or text them or call them and say, can you tell me, who's the competitor you're hearing about most? Which may not be the right competitor because every person's biased. Like an SMB person might be hearing one competitor, whereas another one might be hearing somebody else because they're in different regions. And again, not that opinion's wrong, it's just a subjective opinion. And the other problem is you have to have a meeting to get that information in the first place. Then you have Enablement who's trying to roll out methodology and they don't know what's going on because they have to watch every single call, which no one has time for. So they don't know if MedPick or whatever other methodology is being adopted. Then you have sales leaders who have no idea what's going on in the pipeline because they have to understand from the reps what's going on, which requires a forecast meeting. Product wants to know what's going on with the feedback from customer success and sales reps, and they don't know what's going on. So they have to have a meeting, and on and on and on it goes. So there's all these meetings that happen internally, both of what's happened in the past and also what's happening to understand, like, do we have accounts at risk? Are these deals going to go through? There's just meeting after meeting after meeting, which is both expensive and a waste of time. So think about what you could do if the system was automatically cleaning itself up and not only getting the data, but then proactively communicating that data to the right person at the right time for the right reason that is objective. That is a whole different world that cuts down both on meetings and amplifies the speed that your team can actually go after new deals or help customers that you currently have be happy and safe. Number 3 is when automation can change the pipeline immediately. So when you live in a world, when you have one world of old school where everyone's doing everything manually versus the new school where not only the data of all of your fields is being automatically captured and put into Salesforce for you, but you also have the communication of any risk or any good news of like, hey, this last salesperson did an amazing job on this call. Let's share that with the rest of the team. You no longer have to rely on an enablement person or a manager to go watch a call and then share it. And AI can auto clip that sales call. We have a product that's called Smart Clips that auto clips any part of the call from competition to methodology adoption to products to whatever. But in this circumstance, it can automatically cut that part of the call and then send that to a channel, send it to the enablement team, send it to them and say, good job, you did a great job on this particular pitch. We're going to share it with the team. And then enablement becomes a natural byproduct of having the system versus a human being, again, the source of the data or communicating the data. The other part of it is when the CRM is consistently updated and accurate as the most up-to-date, most accurate information, it becomes this powerhouse of information that then all the rest of your data from forecasting to product usage to literally everything becomes updated and also very important because your conversational data, what happens in your everyday conversations is number 1, unique to your company. No one else in your business, no other competitor has the same conversations that you do. Therefore, the data that you're getting is a multiple, unique set of data that you should be weaponizing to your advantage, both from a marketing point of view, from internal data, from whatever you want to share. We have every 6 months, we release a report that's called the Voice of the Market. We analyze all of our thousands of conversations we have every 6 months, and we find out the patterns that are going on inside of AI and go-to-market teams. So we'll be releasing that in February, and you'll be able to see like the data that we have access to is unique to us that no one else has because our conversations with customers and with prospects are different than every other competitor because we ask different questions and therefore we get different answers and have different data points. So your data coming from conversations is unique and should be weaponized as much as possible. Next up, you have the value of real-time nudges and guardrails. So when you have Teams or you have Slack, which again, Momentum integrates with both, but if you have some technology that can somehow integrate with your communication mechanism, you're able to then make it so alerts, signals, whatever you want to have, can be automatically communicated to the right person or right group of people so that they can understand what's going on. And a great example is you have a customer who's been with you for several years, they start to become unhappy, and instead of waiting for them to cancel and then doing a retroactive close loss analysis, you have beforehand a proactive AI that's always listening to your customer saying, hey, the sentiment analysis is not good. I think something's going on. We need to trigger it. And not only can it tell the CS person or the salesperson there's something wrong, it can communicate it to leaders. I had a leader tell me once that bad news travels slow, and that most of the times the stats are that a VP of customer success or someone who has a large organization will hear about failures in the process months after it happens. With AI, that gets cut out immediately. So within minutes of the call, if there's a problem, the entire team who needs to know will know, and they can help to save that deal beforehand, which is awesome. So there's a lot of things that can both reduce meetings and accelerate the communication across the team that's positive for everyone, not just for one person. All right, next up is process enforcement without having to slow the reps down. In the past, the only way to enforce process was to require people to fill out fields in the process and to say, hey, you're not getting paid unless the this field is filled out. And now you can do it to where you can pay people because the data is already there. The only thing the human needs to do is actually speak. AI is not going to create words out of thin air if they're not talking about it. It can't fill out metrics in Medic if they're not asking about metrics, but it will if they start talking about it. So as long as the sales rep is speaking the right words and asking the right questions, the data will be filled out automatically. And the cool thing is it speeds them up so they can then focus on their craft of communicating and having a conversation and building relationships versus having to think, okay, I write this note down and make sure I have this in the CRM and in this field and blah, blah, blah. The other part of this too is that you can not only capture the data, but let's just say someone did miss metrics and you get to stage 3 and you're like, hey, you're supposed to have metrics by stage 3 of our sales process. Instead of someone being a data police and a data cop and saying, hey, you need to get metrics, the AI can be the annoying person and saying, hey, Bob, you have missed metrics the last 3 calls. You need to ask about metrics. And based on the context of the conversation, here's what you can ask the customer in this question. It'll suggest a question saying, ask this on your next call to get the metrics. So not only is it nudging them to adhere to the process, but it's also coaching them and saying what they could do so they can execute on it and then help them. And they can also, the AI can not only nudge the sales rep, but also nudge their leader and say, hey, they haven't got metrics. Or we could say, hey, over a week's period of time, they've had 10 opportunities. Only 7 of them have metrics. The other 3 do not, but they're the 3 biggest deals. So you need to go look at it. So AI can analyze it and then ping the leader and saying, you got a problem with these 3 deals. So we think about how much automation can happen as a result. It makes it so then the relationship of the leader to the sales rep becomes more positive because then you're not getting all bad news from your manager. Let the AI become the person or the entity to remind you. And the manager can then help coach and build them up and make sure they're going down the right path and manage the deals. So the cool thing is that Momentum does all this and more. It basically helps Salesforce not to be stale. And the point of this is that not only when you have the ability to have better data inside of all the fields you have inside of Salesforce, the data obviously helps the forecast become more accurate, but you also have not just a subjective view into forecasting, you also have an objective view because you have things like signals, like how many times has a positive signal fired in this opportunity or in this customer, or vice versa. How many times has a negative signal fired with this customer opportunity? You'll be able to find data and insights you never would have had before that are all objective and not depending on the human to remember and then to be able to communicate it. So if this is the kind of problem you're dealing with, unreliable data, reps drowning in admin work, that you're a data cop and trying to figure out what the crap's going on, you have to call people 20 times a day to figure out what's going on, then come to momentum.io. Let's book a call. Let's have a conversation. Love to talk to you through how we can do this in depth. We've done it for hundreds of customers. We have some of the best in the business from Demandbase and Cursor and Ramp and 1Password and Owner. And I could go on for a long time of how many customers we have that just love and trust us. We'd love to do the same for you. Come hit us up. Let's talk.